All right, well, welcome to the AD Robles YouTube channel in year 2021. I wanted to just thank everybody who watched the channel last year, who supported me on Patreon, who shared the content, and who watches us through the Fight Laugh Feast network. It was a good year for the YouTube channel, no question about it. In 2020, the AD Robles YouTube channel had 1.6 million views, which before this year, I had a channel for a couple years. I think we had 600,000 total over like 2.5, 3 years. And in 1 year, we had 1.6 million views. So thank you so much for the support and the love and all of that kind of stuff. More good stuff to come here in 2021. Now, if you remember, last year, I started with a kind of a theme, and the theme was no despair, rejecting despair. I could not have known how appropriate and how necessary that theme was going to be in the coming year. This year was a year where we saw despair on a massive scale unleashed on the United States of America. And this was done through various means. It was done through propaganda. It was done through even our Big Eva kind of evangelical leadership, was shutting down churches and all this kind of stuff. Despair was everywhere. And I said at the beginning of the year, before I knew any of that would happen, no despair. The people of God have no excuse for despair. It's the opposite of hope. It is unbelief to be in a state of perpetual, fundamental, sort of cosmic despair. We have to reject that because we have a good God, and we have a good God who does good things for his people. And though we might feel sorrow at times, we understand that we do not grieve the way others grieve. We don't have to compromise ourselves because of, our circumstances or things like that. We don't have to grant to the state God powers in order to protect us from a virus, even if it was a serious virus, which it definitely wasn't as serious as they said it was. We still don't need to give over our freedoms and our despair and our rights and our authority that we get from God. We don't grant that to the state in any way, because you know why we don't do that? Because we're free men. Christ has set us free, and it's not a freedom where it's just like chaos and we're just completely unfettered. No, we're servants of Christ, right? We're slaves of Christ, but that slavery to Christ is freedom. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like we don't have to, in fact, we shouldn't give our authority that we get directly from God to the state or to people that do not deserve it. And so 2021 for me is going to be about embracing that mentality of being a free man. And that's the thing, guys. Like, I'll be honest with you. I know a lot of you guys reach out to me and say that you're grateful for my boldness and you're grateful for my ability to sort of stand against the current and stuff like that. And I'll be honest with you. Every time I hear that, there's a little bit of not imposter syndrome necessarily, but there's a little bit of shame that I feel on the inside because I know who I am on the inside. And on the inside, I'm a very compliant person. I believe personally that I put up with obvious lies way too long in 2020. I wore the mask too often in 2020. I complied with a lie, and I participated in that lie for way too long. Now, in the beginning, when the coronavirus first started, I grant a lot of grace for everybody because we didn't know what was happening and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know exactly what it was, but it certainly seemed to me like it was being overblown from the very beginning. And yet I wore the mask way more often than I should have. I complied way too much. And I knew that I had authority that came from God for me and my family. I knew that we had authority that came from God in our churches. And yet I still complied with a state that was hell-bent on taking that authority from the church and from myself and from my own family upon themselves. And I complied with that for too long. It took me months before I went to the post office and I just refused to wear the mask. I'm not doing it anymore. And it took me way too long to get to that point. And I think that some people will say, well, that's a good thing, AD, because you don't want to be just a rebel rouser. You don't want to be just just disobeying for the sake of disobeying. And And I disagree. I don't think that was a good thing. It wasn't a good thing to lie with the civil governing authority about this coronavirus and about what kind of authority they had. It was not a good thing to do that. And though you might excuse me for doing what everyone else was doing for a little bit, I really feel like I should have nipped that in the bud sooner. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. I'm a free man. And I'm going to act like a free man from here on out. I'm not going to go along with the lies. I'm not going to go along with the deceptions. I'm not going to go along with it anymore. I'm fed up with it. You watch the news, you're seeing propaganda constantly. We don't know what's true and what's false, but what we do know is that God has given his people freedom. God has given his people authorities that he did not give to the state. God has given his people authority over their own households, their own children. And every time the state seeks to assert themselves over your own children, you as a Christian free man need to say no. The answer is just no. And I think 2021 is a huge opportunity for the church to practice saying no. You can say it politely if you want to. No, thank you. No, I appreciate the offer, but no. There's a lot of different ways to say no. You can just say no with no explanation. Just say no. That's fine. Or you can explain yourself if you want to. No, thank you. I don't really want to get the vaccine. I don't really think I need to get the vaccine. I don't know what the long-term side effects are. I'm just going to say no. My kids aren't going to get it either. And if you can't go to your stupid school, because they don't have the vaccine, well, I guess we're not going to your stupid school. You can explain yourself if you like, but you don't have to. You can just say no. No, I'm not going to sign the list of for contact tracing church officer. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to do that. So no, please do not add me to the contact tracing list. And no, I'm not going to bring my papers that say that I've been vaccinated to church so that you let me take the elements of God. In fact, we're going to go to a different church because you are adding works to the worship of God. We're not going to do it. No. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to practice saying no in 2021. And I would suggest to you that you do not listen to the insanity of Jonathan Leeman, where he says, well, we got to maintain our cultural capital in order to obey Christ in the big things. That's not how it works. You see, you need to be faithful in the small things, and you get your practice in with the small things so that you will be faithful with the big things. Like, you got to practice when it's easy in order to not comply with the insanity when it's not so easy. Don't listen to Jonathan Leeman. We don't have to get capital from the culture. Our capital comes from God, and God gives to us abundantly, and so we can just say no. And I would suggest you say no. You start practicing saying no with the little stuff. When they say, just shut your church down for a couple of weeks. That's the little stuff. That's the practice. You say no then. That way, when they say, shut your church down permanently until you start marrying LGBT whatever, then you can say no to that, because that's the big stuff, right? I have no delusions that those who have proven themselves unfaithful with the small things will somehow muster the courage in them to obey with the big things. That doesn't make any sense. Don't listen to Jonathan Leeman. You're a free man, and you can act like a free man right now. You don't have to build up cultural capital so then you can act like a free man. No, Christ has set you free. We are free men in 2021, so it's time as a church to start acting like it. I hope you found this video helpful. I'm looking forward to 2021. I don't know, man. Can we get 1.6 million views in 2020? Can we get over 2 million views in 2021? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Thank you for the support. If you want to continue to support this channel, please consider doing so on Patreon. I'll add the link to this video. And also, I've got a P.O. box that you can check as well. I'll put the link to that in the comment section below. Feel free to support me there as well. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless. And so the question becomes, how do you get your freedoms, right? How do you gain your freedoms? How do you start living like a free man? And the reality is that it's a matter of faith because God has set you free. It says so in the Bible. Christ is sitting on his throne. He rules and reigns. He's given you authority. He's given you authority as a father in your home. He's given the church, the pastors, authority in the church. He's given the state certain authorities, but it's very limited. And the state is never content with the authority that God has given it. And so they're always going to try to usurp authority from you and from your church and things like that. And so how do you win that freedom struggle? Well, people have suggested we got to mount up, we got to go to war. People have suggested we got to get the courts, we got to do lawsuits and stuff like that. And none of that is bad, but the first thing you need to do is to trust God. Trust the word of God that you are free and that he has given you certain authorities. And so it happens in your mind first. You live like a free man when you realize that God has made you free, so you didn't win your freedom. Christ won your freedom for you. Christ has given you certain authorities that he did not give the state. And so you become a free man when you start to live in light of that reality. It starts in your mind and it goes with your actions, right? And so Matt Williams, my co-host on Reformgelical, he's a great guy, and he said this perfectly. He's like, when do the mask mandates end, right? When do these insane lockdowns end where you have to shut down your business and your church and all that stuff? When does it end? You're not going to sue that into oblivion. We're not going to sue that into oblivion. The state's not going to give us our rights back. You have to take them. The mask mandate ends when you stop wearing the mask. You have the authority to do it, so just do it. You have the authority to open your church, so just open it. That's when you get your freedoms back. That's when their ridiculous lockdowns end, when you stop consenting to it. That's how it is, man. That's how it is. That's how to live like a free man. Now, that does not mean that there will be no consequences for your actions, but you're free. There will be consequences. The state's not just going to roll over and take it. When they want you to be their subjects. They want you to be their slaves, right? They want to treat you like a slave, and they're going to make you their slave, and they're going to try to force you to do it. But if you're free in your mind, you see, that's how you get your freedom. I'm not going to wear a mask when I go to the post office today because I'm a free man now. The mandate's still in effect. I'm supposed to wear it according to them, and I say, no, you don't have that authority. I'm not doing it because I'm a free man. And so when they come for your kids, they want to put them in public schools to teach them LGBT, whatever. You have options available. You could fight it if you want to. You could run away if you want to. There's all kinds of options for you. But first you have to recognize that authority was given to you by Christ. It is not within your power to yield that to somebody else. That's not obeying Christ. That's not demonstrating faith. You need to demonstrate your faith by your works. And one of the ways that you do that is to take the authority that Christ has given you, take the freedoms that Christ has given you, and start to live like a free man here on earth. That's how you do it.